In the beginning, I thought everything was really, really very, very well.
Would be flowers. He would open up a chair
I would
for me.
look at the times when things were going good.
I thought I was in heaven, but I was wrong. I was working as a cashier, and he came into the store and we started talking. He was so nice.
He was coming off of the midnight shift and started up a conversation, and before I knew it, things, we were dating. He would always make sure that he was there to pick me up, like at 5 o'clock. I was like, wow, this is really nice. I mean, he's coming all the way from the Bronx. He's going to get me. He's going to take me home to Long Island at that point. And, a couple hours later, he's got to be back in Manhattan.
My daughter's father got killed in a car accident 3 days before our wedding day. I didn't know how to handle that. And I turned around and I married my homeboy.
He started just changing. He became very jealous.
I know now that what he was doing was, it was limiting my association with other people after work, forming me into a piece of isolation.
Definitely a mistake. He was an ex-professional boxer, very insecure, very controlling, very possessive. He felt like he could just put his hands on me.
He had a habit of hiding things. I would take my jewelry off at night and I would put it in my jewelry box, and I would wake up in the morning, I'd look to put my jewelry on, and my jewelry wouldn't be in my jewelry box. In the battered woman syndrome, it's known as gaslighting, where your abuser actually tries to make you think that you're going crazy. I've had definitely emotional abuse, I've had psychological abuse, I've had the physical abuse, I've had the sexual abuse. I would look at the times when things were going good. There have been several hospitalizations for me. I've had broken fingers, I've had my arm torn out of my socket, but I would never tell them actually what happened. But clearly it was actually him from throwing me around. I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter and he threw me down a flight of stairs. It's amazing that I actually carried her to full term. It was a rough life. I can't even say it was a rough life. It was a horrible life. No one deserves to go through things like that battered woman actually go through.
I went to the hospital behind my injuries for the ribs, the fractured jaw, the stitches above my left eye. And he'd be right there, to make sure that I didn't tell the doctors or anything that it was him, And they would ask him, too. And they'd look at him with curiosity, as if to say, yeah, you did this.
Okay, one time he tied me to the chair. He took off all my clothes and he tied me to the chair. And he said that because he wanted me to go in to buy drugs, and I said I wasn't going. So he said, well, make sure you don't leave the house. So he tied me to the chair and he would leave, go get his drugs one time, and come back. That wasn't one time. He did that quite a bit. Another time he couldn't get a when a man can't get a reaction. That and he cut off a broomstick and he abused me with it. But the worst part was when he used to pull out his gun. He used to take the gun out and just put it to my head. First he would shoot out the window, let me hear it go off. Then he would put it to my head and pull the trigger. I had the housing police come to the house, but he came right back when they left. And that day he really beat me up bad. We're calling the cops, who didn't do nothing.
I did call the cops maybe once or twice, and they took him out of the house, and they told him to walk around the corner a couple of times. After the cops would actually leave, it was like, get ready for round two, put your boxing gloves on. After a while, why even bother with something like that?
He was one of those types that would try to kill me if he knew I was leaving him. One day I went to ask him for a divorce. He tried to pull me into this vacant lot, and I mean, it was like a whole big dramatic scene, and I couldn't get away from him.
My eyes was black, both of them, and I had on shades. And I went down there to get order protection. When I got up to the line, kept my glasses on, and I told the lady I wanted order protection. She asked me, did I have kids by him? And I said, no. She told me I couldn't get her order protection there. Nowadays, that changed, thank God. It was a white lady who told me that, and a black lady was next to her. And the black lady came outside, and she said to me, Miss, let me see your eyes, take your glasses off. And I showed her. She said, you get back on that line, let your hair down, take them glasses off, and tell her you got a kid by him, so you can get to order protection. I got on that line, and I lied. When he was served with it, he ripped it up and threw it in my face. He said, by the time the cops get here, you'll be dead. I had my locks changed 4 times, and I couldn't understand why I gotta leave my house. That's what they said when you went to Bedford. You should have left. It's not that easy. The police wouldn't do nothing. The order protection didn't do nothing. Nothing happened. I was tired.
I felt like no matter what, going back to no one will ever believe that that's what I'm going through, or no one would ever believe that he's capable of doing it. I found out later on, actually, that he himself came from a family of violence. I would try to do my best with making things look like everything was all right. So I kind of figured that everybody else now was doing the same thing I was doing.
My neighbors definitely knew. They didn't say much because they too was going through their own domestic violence situations. Nobody talked about it because everybody had their own secrets they was trying to keep.
Women survive in different ways, and sometimes the way that they survive might be using drugs or alcohol in order to hide the abuse, to cover up the fact that they're of the pain.
To escape the battery also becomes much more difficult when you are lacking resources.
This one particular day, he came home from work and he had said that he had lost his job again. I had already taken the kids to my mother's house because I knew I had to work the following morning at a school crossing. And at that point, I wasn't feeling comfortable with even leaving the kids with my husband. We got into an argument with each other, and he came after me with the gun. And during the course of the struggle, I was able to get the gun away from him. We had exchanged words, and he went into the bedroom, and he fell asleep. I took the gun back, and I shot him. I just felt so strong at that point that that evening would be a matter of his life or my life. And that was the second time that he had actually tried to use a gun on me. And it was also 2 weeks before he himself had actually tried to commit suicide. I clearly felt that if he was going to take his own life, that he would take my life first and then take his life.
He said, I'm going to be able to kill you this time. And the cops is never going to find me because I'm going to go to Puerto Rico. Usually when he shot out the window and put it to my head, he would put the gun in the toolbox and lock it up. This time he put it to my head, like he always do, pulled the trigger, and laid the gun on the nightstand. And then he turned around and put that drug in his nose. And I picked up the gun. And I shot him. And I don't know how come it went off this time, because when he put it to my head and pulled the trigger, it didn't go off. They said, the autopsy said I shot him 4 or 5 times. I don't remember that till this day.
I stayed just because I wanted to fight back. I didn't want you to think that you could put your hands on me and I'll shed some tears. 2 years into it, I said, I can't do this. I just walked out the apartment and just never came back. One day I went to go meet this girl that I went to school with. She was like, oh, well, come with me. I'm going to my friend's house. When I look back in hindsight, I knew that I just didn't want to go. I got to this man's apartment. He was trying to talk to me, and I'm like, I'm not here for all of this. I left her there. And by the time I got home, I realized I left my pouch. And I said, okay, I'll get the pouch when I come home from work. And I worked the graveyard shift, and I took a cab. And I knocked at the door. He said, why don't you come in and, look for yourself? He went on a tangent about Judy, about how she stole. He said he had a watch that was missing. He grabbed me, and he felt that he should be compensated with sex in place of his missing watch. This man done grabbed me. So that there done brought back old memories for me in ways that you can't even imagine. So then he grabs me by my neck. I'm trying to grasp for air. And I could just feel it like, this man is trying to kill me. But he was talking about violating me a minute ago. So how did we get to this point here? And I reach into the sink, and I grabbed the first thing that I could get my hands on. He has both his hands on my throat, so I can't reach his face. So I said, okay, I'm going to catch him like on the side. And when I look, I have a knife in my hand, and there's blood dripping off this knife. I just instantly got mad, like, look what you made me do. I turned myself in. The bottom line is that I stabbed this man. It's hard when you grow up under the Christianity that I grew up under and know that that's one of the commandments, thou shalt not kill.
I think that they actually thought it was somebody else and that I was covering up for them. Whether they didn't believe that someone like me, whatever that may be as being me, could actually do it, or didn't fit the stereotyping that you normally find for a battered woman. I had told them whatever I could tell, whatever I felt comfortable in telling them about my relationship with my husband. Because believe it or not, I think in my own sick way, I was still trying to protect my husband.
They questioned me. I told them what happened. I realized I should have asked for a lawyer, but I didn't know. They didn't ask about the abuse. They didn't ask nothing about what he did to me, the shooting. That's all they wanted to know about.
I took my case to trial. It didn't matter that he had a history of this. Didn't matter. I think to them, just the fact that he was dead.
One day he was beating me so bad in the hallway, and another neighbor, she came out and tried to break it up, and he flipped her on the floor and put his knee to her chest. She came to court. She testified. They didn't believe that, and I think it was the jury. They didn't understand about domestic violence, period.
The district attorney actually did absolutely nothing, in my opinion, in terms of having even a belief with the battered woman syndrome. He didn't want to look at any particulars. He didn't want to look at circumstances that led up to anything. For him, it was a clear-cut case. I have hospital records that show me going into the emergency room, but because I didn't state that it was at the hands of my abuser, it held weight, but it didn't hold that much weight.
Some judges understand domestic violence and so will allow some of the testimony about the abuse to enter in. Other judges do not allow anything that happened before. The person who was deceased is now considered the victim. And so you're making that victim look bad.
I can't change that, I can't bring him back to life. All I can do is just pray for his family. I wind up getting 9 to 18 years. I was stuck for a minute, because I did have a daughter, and, I thought of her, I thought of my mother, the two people in the world that I cared the most about. I completed 11 years.
I took a plea to manslaughter in the first. I actually got the max on the sentence, 8 1/3 to 25, and I served 17.
They convicted me of second-degree murder. They sentenced me to 17 to life. I couldn't believe it. The judge, he made it sound like he sentenced me because that was what he had to do with the law. That's the way I felt. And then when I come up for clemency, he wrote a letter in my behalf.
When I went and I came off the bus, I just kept saying to myself, oh my God, they actually have a prison for women. I was curious as to what were all these women doing here in prison.
As a survivor of domestic violence, you feel that like you're the only one that's going through this, you know, and no one would understand why you're going through it or any of that stuff. And then when you get a group of women together and you hear their stories, some of it is extremely similar to what you're going through.
When they closed that cell door, the first time they closed that cell door, and this might sound crazy, but I said to myself, I said, you know, you're here, you're not with your family, but you're alive. Had nobody threatening me, nobody hitting me. When the door's locked, I said, okay, I'm safe.
Prison has changed me in so many ways. I never thought that people lived the lives that they lived. Most of them are incest survivors, rape victims. I think for the women, a lot of them give up hope. It's sad. It really is. It's sad. They give them all of this time, and the one thing that they fail to acknowledge is that the system failed them before they even got to that point.
Walking out of Bedford, that was the happiest moment in my life. We went to a restaurant and I ate a hamburger, which I hadn't had a real hamburger in 13 years.
The transition is not actually a very easy process. When you come out, it's really a hard pace.
My daughter and I has always been close, always. I was so happy just to see her, just to hold her, just to touch her, you know, without having to be in the visiting room and, you know, just spend time with my grandson and stay up all night and talk.
I started maintaining relationships with people that I knew at the agency where I'm at now, at the Women's Prison Association, and when a position became available, I applied for it and I got it. And that's where I've been ever since. Trying to make a foundation for myself and my partner and our family. The ability to still have a healthy relationship with somebody is very, very important to me.
I got a nice boyfriend now. It was good. But I'm still skeptic about these men. You know, and I can't help that. And he knows what I went through. I told him the truth and everything.
Every day I stay in the trenches trying to change policy, trying to just help people that are coming out of prison get on their feet.
When I think about people hurting people that they love, no matter what gender they are, that this needs to stop, that we need to have a change in society that says it is no longer right to hurt somebody that you say that you love. And that dream's going to become a reality someday.
Waking up every morning, you know, waking up every morning, not being behind bars is one thing, but waking up every morning and being productive and doing the work that I do.
I'm so proud of that, what I accomplished now, that I'm out, I'm working, I'm healthy, I can walk the streets, I can put on what I want to put on, I don't have to worry about nobody hitting me, and I'm just free.